Welcome to Tales from the Rail. I'm Chad.
I'm Greg.
And we are upfront. We're unfiltered. We're unforgettable.
A rock and roll podcast by fans, for the fans, and about the fans.
We just want to bring the fan experience. We're two friends, and really our friendship has grown from heavy metal music.
Yeah, the love of rock and roll has brought us together. When we didn't know each other, we first met, started telling stories about rock and roll, and the next thing you know, we're going to concerts together. We become the best of friends, and now we want to talk about our fan experience, and we want to hear about fan experience from all the people that we know.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about our relationship, our friendship, is we kind of come a little bit from two different generations, have a little bit different styles of music, but certainly have those bands that we come together on. And I think we both have just many different memories from going to concerts, getting tickets, and we wanted to create a episode and a podcast for you to share your experiences as well. So tell them a little bit about your journey through rock and roll and going to concerts and who you are, and then I'll follow up.
Okay. Well, even though we're both Gen Xers, I'm from the first part of the Gen X, and Chad's from the later part of the Gen X, and we kind of have different musical tastes and styles, but a lot of them we come together on. And when I was growing up and I was little, I got introduced to rock and roll through a friend of mine that I went to elementary school with. I think I was in 5th or 6th grade at the time. And I'd heard rock and roll music in my house a little bit. My dad listened to Dolly Parton, but my mom kind of listened to Elvis Presley. And I think she had an old Iron Butterfly album in there with a little In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. So I'd been introduced to rock and roll at an early age, but I went to hang out with a friend of mine back in 5th or 6th grade. And, you know, when you're 11 years old, you think saying cuss words is like the coolest thing ever. You're learning how to cuss and say bad words. So I'm hanging out at my buddy's house, and he goes in his brother's room. He had an older brother, and he pulls out Nazareth Hair of the Dog album. And he pops
Nazareth Hair of the Dog. Tell him a little bit about Nazareth.
Oh, my gosh. Nazareth, that album came out in 1975, I believe. It was their third or fourth album that came out. And, you know, the opening track is Hair of the Dog with lyrics like, now you're messing with the son of a bitch. So we're learning how to cuss and say cuss words. And my buddy, he's practicing his best son of a bitch, and I'm sitting there listening to the music going, oh my God, what is this music? This is awesome. And he wants to turn it off after the song's over so he can practice his curse words. And I'm like, no, keep playing it. I want to hear some more off of this.
You're right.
So that's how I kind of got introduced to rock and roll. And as soon as I heard Nazareth Hair of the Dog, I'm like, this is my music. This is where I'm going to be. And this is right in my wheelhouse. And I just started exploring rock and roll from there.
That's awesome. So I had a friend, his name was Rodney DeRoos, and his dad, blue collar guy, Wayne, super tough. But he would come home and he would always go downstairs and listen to metal music, right? And we'd hear it a little bit. I first started becoming friends. Rodney was the typical heavy metal kid. He was a drummer. He had long hair, always had an Iron Maiden or Metallica shirt on. So their family loved heavy metal. And but the only music I heard in my house was from my sister upstairs, right?
Yeah.
So I was always sneaking. This is about 1984, I would say. I was always sneaking her Madonna cassettes and her Michael Jackson cassettes and any music I could get my hands on. But then Rodney gave me Quiet Riot Metal Health. I'm sure you remember that album.
Yeah, I saw that tour.
And I think, let's see, the first track probably was come on, feel the noise. And the second that line came out in that first riff, I was like, what is this? Like, this is what Wayne's listening to downstairs. And, Wayne was kind of an intimidating big guy that you looked up to. So I was like, oh, this is why he goes by himself to listen to this music. So, man, I just listened to that Quiet Riot album, and there was never another Michael Jackson in my house. There was no more Madonna.
I was going to ask you what happened to those Madonna and Michael Jackson.
I gave them back to my sister. sister's room. Like, they went back. She stopped yelling at me for stealing all her music. My mom did destroy that cassette because she's like, this is the devil music they're talking about on the news, right? So that's kind of my first start into heavy metal. But why do you think they should listen to us, and what do we want to accomplish through these podcasts, Greg?
Well, if you want to talk about rock and roll music, and if you're a fan of rock and roll music, you know, and you want to tell your stories and stuff, you can go to the fan sites of the band and you can tell your stories on fan sites and that kind of stuff. But you have to go to different places to tell your stories. And if you don't have a certain experience with, if you went to see Quiet Riot back in '83 when they came out with that album, you got to go on Quiet Riot's fan page and you got to tell your story there or look up stories from like that place. But being like me and you, we're both Gen Xers, but we come from different eras.
Right.
So where can we go to just hear fan stories about rock music and the music we grew up with? And so we want to have a place where we can just tell our stories. You want to tell a Public Enemy story. I want to tell a Cinderella story. We both have the same experience, even though it's two different bands, the experiences aren't different.
That's right.
I mean, the love of the music is the same, and what we had to go through to get the music and listen to the music is the same. And so we can tell those stories here instead of having to go to several different places.
I think what makes us different is like we're not music snobs, and no offense to the critics out there. That's their job. We don't say, hey, I always hear, I love Metallica, and I always hear people rip on Lars about he missed this beat. Like, we don't care about that, right? We just love that it's a great concert, and we really don't want to just share about the music. We want to share the story. So why did we call it Tales from the Rail?
When I first started going to concerts back in when my first show was in 1980. So when I started going to concerts in the 80s, everything was general admission. It's like you didn't get to pick out your seat. You stood in line to get a ticket. You stood in line, camped out at the venue to go see the band. And if you wanted to be up front, if you wanted to be right where the stage is, you had to get there early and camp out. And when you went inside and they opened the doors, everybody, they bolted for the stage, and in front of the stage there's always that barrier.
So as soon as they opened the doors, everyone sprinted, ran.
You're sprinting, you're running so you can get down on the
and what
floor.
was that experience like? Were people like knocking each other over, or was it friendly?
Every man for himself.
Every man for themselves.
Every man for himself. But once you got down there,
that was because there was no assigned seats back then, right? It was all general admission.
Everything's general.
So whoever got to the front of the line, whoever was the fastest to the rail, got that front seat.
Got the front seat. So your belly's against the barrier.
Yeah,
you're right on the rail. And then you've got another hour or so before the opening band comes out. So what do you do for a whole hour? You tell stories with the people that you stood in line with, the people that you knocked down to get to the rail. And so that's kind of where Tales from the Rail came from, is, we told our stories. We told our stories when we stood in line. We told our stories when we were buying the tickets. We tell our stories while we're waiting for the opening band.
Yeah.
And then we hung out after the show and we talked about the show, and we talked about, other bands that we'd seen, and just that whole experience.
So all your younger generation out there, when you come and say, hey, excuse me, you're in my seat. No, you're talking to a generation that used to have to push people out of the way to get to the rail.
Yeah, it was every man for himself. And the guy you just knocked down, he may be standing next to you when you get down there, but everything was cool.
Everything was cool.
Everything was cool.
It was all understood.
It was all understood.
It was every man for himself.
Yeah.
Now, usually you would have like a girlfriend or girls with you at the show. How would they get to the front of the rail, and how would you utilize them to make sure you got a good spot?
If you took a girl with you, then you were golden. So you didn't have to wait in line.
And people are less likely to knock a little girl.
They're not going to knock a girl down. So if you've got a girl, she's cute, she's got you by the hand, and she's just, wedging her way down to the front. And they're just, guys when they see her pushing, they look down like it's somebody that they want to knock the crap out of, but it's this cute blonde-haired girl. And
no one's going to do anything.
God. And she's dragging you, and you're going, sorry, buddy, excuse me. and she's dragging you down front, so you get down front, and you know, if you have a girl with you, she can wedge through the crowd, and you can get right down front, watch the show, and you don't have to stand in line, and you don't have to wait, but, you know.
So we went to a Metallica show together, and there was this movie called Metallica Saved My Life, and that was a big part of it. Like, hey, remember when we used to sprint at the Metallica shows to get to the rail, and
Yeah.
all these friendships that formed
Mm.
over this, and all these stories that came from it. So we saw that. We started going on, him and I go on a lot of walks and work out together, and we share all these stories. We're like, we got to bring this to a podcast. So that's why we call it for Tales from the Rail. I've veered off a little bit with music, but I've always come back to heavy metal. So, the my area was kind of the hip hop started taking over, and then the new metal came out with a little hip hop included in it. So I was just like, well, I can get rid of the hip hop because now there's metal music with that hip hop in. But I've just always been drawn to this music. I think it's the riffs, the power of the songs. What talk a little bit about how heavy metal's just shaped you, and you've always been a constant in your life.
Yeah, I mean, even with I didn't grow up listening to hip hop, I listened to hard rock and metal, my whole life, but even with hip hop, I mean, hip hop comes from blues riffs,
Yeah,
and heavy metal comes from blues riffs,
right.
and, uh, classic rock stuff comes from blues riffs.
Blues
So,
riff.
really, it all comes from the same place.
Yeah.
So, even though it evolved in different directions and you like what you like and I like what I like, and we still come together on a lot of stuff, I mean, it all comes from the same place. So, uh coming up and I was listening to, oh God, my first album. Let me see. My first 8-track. I had an 8-track was the Cars
And
Candy.
for our young listeners, describe an 8-track real quick.
Oh my gosh. Some of you may know what a cassette is, but an 8-track was 4 times as big and it was enclosed and it had 4 tracks on it, so you would play 2 or 3 songs, maybe 2, and then it would switch to track 2, and then you would hear 2 more songs, and then it would switch to track 3, and then you would hear 2 more songs. But if the songs are only 3 minutes long, you could probably listen to both the songs before it switched tracks, but if you listen to bands like Pink Floyd and Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, who all played 5, 6, 7-minute songs, the tracks always switched right in the middle of your fricking favorite song on the 8-track. And if the 8-track player, if it ate your tape, and a lot of them did,
So it was this
like
big, huge plastic
big
cassette with
big
a tape in it,
plastic
kind of like a
thing.
cassette.
Oh, it was bigger than your cell phone. I mean, it was twice as big, 4 times as thick, and you could carry maybe 12 of them in your car.
That's it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
You had a case that was probably 1 foot by a foot and a half, and you might get 12 of
So
them.
did you have like a library at home, and
Yeah.
then you would have to have this moment before you got in your car? Like,
Pick out which ones I'm gonna take.
which ones am I going to take with me on this road trip to this show?
Yeah, because you couldn't put more than about 12 of them in there. So you're picking out what you wanna see, and then we were lucky enough to have cassettes come out, and cassettes, you could have, 4 different cassettes in the same space, so that was really great.
Yeah. So then you could get up to 50
You get up
cassettes
to
in the
50,
same spot.
yeah, 50, 60 cassettes in your car, and it's like, "Oh, I got a whole concert in here now. This is awesome."
But what was it like to get, talk a little bit about what it was like to get the 8 tracks, and how you started sharing it with your friends, and then how did that lead you to your first show?
Oh, well, just to give a little background, I mean, I grew up in rural Kentucky. So, small town in Western Kentucky. I lived on a street that was about a half a mile long, and I think we had 6 houses on the whole street. So, my nearest neighbor was 300 yards away. So, I lived out in the middle of nowhere. And back then, all we had was AM and FM radio. And so, the nearest large city was 2 hours away. Well, FM radio doesn't carry that far, and so if
Yeah.
you live in a
Yeah,
rural
it's not like the digital now where you can get a New York station on digital FM radio.
Yeah.
The reach was like
The reach was maybe
20
30
miles?
30 miles, maybe.
20, 30 miles.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I had no rock and roll radio.
So if there's no big, think about this, like, think of how accessible music is to you now, and think going back to how hard you had to work to listen to this type of music that you liked. It wasn't on AM because it can't support the
No,
beats, and even if it was, it wouldn't as be as powerful because the riffs wouldn't come through, the sound wouldn't be right, and you have no big city around you.
no big cities.
You're 2 hours away from Nashville,
2
where
hours
you
from
live.
Nashville, 2.5 to St. Louis,
Right.
2 to Evansville, um, 2.5 to Memphis. So those were the 4 big cities. So I was like in the center of the wheel
Yeah.
with all of those cities around me. So if I wanted to go see a concert, I had to go, I had to travel.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't get
So
to
when
hear
they
about
say
those things.
bumfuck Kentucky, that's where you're from.
That's where I'm from. Yeah, it's kind of a joke. I'm from a town where the men are men and the sheep are nervous. So
So
so I had to go seek it out. I had to go look for this kind of music. It took effort.
yeah.
So first of all, you had to find friends.
You can pull it up on your phone on
You
a
know,
streaming service.
you had to find friends that liked it too.
Yeah.
So your library is all up here.
Yeah.
This is where your library is. So the bands that you like to listen to, you had to go find friends that liked it, and they had to introduce you to a band that you'd never heard of before. And so
Right.
they got to, so you start sharing your cassettes and you start sharing information about different bands. Hey, you should go try this one. You should try this one. You should listen to this. So we were sharing 8 tracks. We were sharing cassettes. We had to go out and actively search for this stuff. But we
Right.
were lucky enough to have a record store in the mall. So we'd go to the record store and all of our friends would meet there. And I mean, you picked out music based on pretty much the album cover.
Right.
So, I mean, they didn't have it broken down into sections. When I started going to record stores, there wasn't a pop section and a metal section. And
So there
a
was
country
no
section.
genre section.
Everything was alphabetical.
Wow.
All the music was mixed together and it was all alphabetical.
So you just had to go through it.
So yeah, I went from AC/DC.
Your friends with you.
Yeah. We're pulling up, we're thumbing through the albums, and you start with ABBA, and then you go to AC/DC, and then you go to Aerosmith, and then you go to blah blah blah, so on and so forth. But country's mixed in there, pop's mixed in there.
So
rock
how
and
would
roll's
you
mixed in
know
there.
who the metal
You-
bands were?
You had to talk to your friends,
You
or
did.
look at the album cover and just roll the dice.
So it had to be a
It had to
conversation.
be a conversation.
Have you heard of this band? What do you think?
Absolutely.
So it was that's how the community to me was originally.
That's how it started for me too. I mean, we talk to each other and you find friends, and then so your community base built, your music library built. It's like, hey, I met this friend, he loves music, we get to be friends. He's like, well, you should meet my friend so and so. So he brings his friend in, so you make that friend. So you're building community, you're building your library, and the whole, the rock and roll experience and getting into rock and roll. You built your friend base, you built your library at home, and you couldn't wait to share something, especially if you were the first one to hear a band or first one to think of a
Right.
band. You're like, I can't wait to tell my friends I got something that they haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
They haven't heard yet.
And this
So,
is pre-cassette. This is more
yeah,
vinyl.
this is 8-track and vinyl.
8-track and vinyl.
8-track and vinyl. So you look at an album, and I'd say 75% of the albums didn't even have the band on them. I mean, it's just artwork and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, you could look at the back of the album and you could see how many people were in the
So
band.
you don't even know what the band
I
looks
don't even know
like
what they look
before
like.
you go see them live.
No, I have no idea. I
'Cause
don't know.
mo-
I don't know how they sound,
Yeah.
and I don't know what they
That
look like.
that changed on the cassette, and we're gonna have an episode where we talk about how
Yeah.
music was delivered. But until the cassettes, you didn't even know what they looked
I
like.
didn't know what.
So it was all up here.
Everything was up.
We had to use our
You
imagination.
had to use your imagination.
So I
you're-
came from a little different era. We traded cassettes. That was kind of mid to late 80s, right?
Yeah.
The cassette was pretty prevalent. We knew what the bands looked like. The artwork came out. So there wasn't quite as much imagination, but our community was built pretty much the same way, from trading the cassettes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I developed a lot of friends. And of course it was always like the long-haired guys, and they were smoking cigarettes already in
Yep.
5th or 6th grade, so it really pissed my parents off, right? But those were the friends that I had because we would trade cassettes together. And hey, have you heard Motley Crue? And hey,
Yeah.
have you heard the new Poison album? And here's Cinderella. And that kind of evolved into the heavier bands that I like. But like my era is like Metallica was about the heaviest that it got. When Metallica came out, it was like, whoa. So, talk a little bit about that experience turning into your first concert and just some memories from that first concert and what you felt going to that first concert and how you chose them.
Yeah, well, my library had started to develop, my friend group started to evolve, and so we kinda had a pretty good idea of, the kind of music that we like to listen to, but then we had to figure out, well, how are we gonna see these bands if we ever wanna see these bands? And so there was a local university, Murray State University in Kentucky, and we found out that Molly Hatchet was coming to Murray State
And
University.
what's Murray State like?
I mean, back then, a small school of maybe 5,000 kids,
How far away?
maybe. From where I lived, 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, 45 minutes away. And so it's in a dry county. Back then, it was a dry county. So you weren't going to a bar. You weren't gonna go have a drink. I was 15 years old at the
15
time.
years old.
15 years old. And so I'm going with my neighbor. He's 16. He's a year older than me. We go, but anyway, we find out that Molly Hatchet's coming to town. So my first concert was Molly Hatchet. The ticket was $6, and we go to the Molly Hatchet
$6.
$6. Yeah, my first concert. I
And
still got the ticket stub.
Why Molly Hatchet?
Oh, we love that Southern rock and roll.
Yeah.
Southern rock. Because I started with Leonard Skinner, and then Blackfoot was one of my favorite bands back then. Molly Hatchet. Didn't listen to too much Allman Brothers, but I appreciated the Allman Brothers and that kind of stuff. But the Southern rock stuff, we were totally freaking loving Southern rock stuff. So Molly Hatchet's coming to town. Flirting with Disaster had been out for a year. They dropped their album Beating the Odds a month before that. Two great albums. It's like $6 tickets, which I guess in today's equivalent would probably be 40 or 50 back then.
Yeah.
For a $6 ticket. So my buddy picks me up. We get a friend of ours, my next door neighbor. He's got an older brother. He goes to the liquor store for us. He picks up 2 8-packs of Little Kings. They still make Little Kings, by the way. I don't know if you've ever drank them. Little Kings ale. They come in these small little bottles, and after you get done drinking them, you're driving down the road and you hit road signs with them. You have to go.
You're 15 years old.
15 years old.
Little Kings.
Headed to Murray State University to see my first outdoor. I mean, it was outdoors. It was on the football field. The football field was so small that they only had bleachers on one side of it at the time. This is a small college campus with a football field that only had bleachers on one side.
How many people at this show?
Oh, geez. Maybe 500.
Wow.
Maybe. But so we go in. I have no idea what to expect. And we drank our Little Kings and we went into the show. And then there was a local band from the town that we lived in that was opener for them, and they were pretty good. But Molly Hatchet came out and they lit into frickin' Flirting with Disaster, and I'm like, this is it.
This is
it. I am going to go see live music for the rest
of my life.
And then you go home and then you're going, well, how do I figure out how to get to the next show? I don't even know where to find the next show.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're not coming to Murray State University. So I've got to figure out a way to get to Nashville or Memphis or Evansville or St. Louis. I've got to figure out how to get to these places so I can start seeing more live music. I mean,
well, the cool part of where you grew up too, though, is, I mean, it was all pretty accessible, right?
Yep. I mean,
2-hour road trip.
2-hour road trip. Yeah,
Right.
It wasn't bad.
Yep.
Gas was 89 cents a gallon.
And that was my experience. I grew up in Mace City, Iowa. It's a blue collar town. Iowa, Minnesota border. So we either went to Des Moines, Iowa, or 2 hours away, or we went to Minneapolis 2 hours away, right? So my first show, I had just got my learner's permit. I got my learner's permit because I could detassel corn, right? So it was in
was that a farm exemption?
That was a farm exemption, yeah. So in Iowa, right?
Yeah.
You grew up in BFE, Kentucky. I grew up in BFE, Iowa, probably about 25, 30,000 people. I did have people on my street. So Rodney and Wayne that I told you about, they were right down the street. But my friend Josh, God rest his soul, miss you, buddy. We were the rebellious ones. We liked the heavy music. He's the one that turned me into rap, but we got the idea that since I had my permit, I could drive.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you're only
You didn't
supposed
have
to
to have a
drive
license.
to.
You didn't have a licensed driver with you? Did you
No, yes, you were supposed
supposed
to.
to?
But since I have my permit and I've drove a couple times, then I'm obviously the one that needs to drive 2 hours up to Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Exactly.
Right. So it was Guns N' Roses,
Nice.
Metallica, and Faith No More.
Oh my god.
So I'm 14 years old. It's probably about 5:30 at night. I just got home and we push it was a school night. We pushed the car out of the driveway, pushed it down the street, and then I started it up.
Nice.
So we go to the show. If it's Metallica at the height of the Black Album. It's Guns N' Roses at the height of Use Your Illusion. And I've always been, and I think this show is why I've always like, I will not miss the opening band. And
No, I don't
because
wanna miss the opening.
I came and saw Faith No More, and they were just as good, if not better, than both those bands. And then I became a huge Faith No More fan, and I absolutely loved that band. But it was just me and my buddy Josh, rebellious. Still to this day, we'll have a top 10 concert episode. Our favorite concert, still my favorite because it was my first. And I got home, and there was my dad waiting with his belt. And I got the whooping of my life. And I knew exactly what you did. I don't know where you go, but I know you've been gone and I know you stole the car and I watched you push it down the street.
But there's no phones back then. He
But
can't
there's no
call
phones
you.
back there.
He
And
can't stop you.
he could have chased me on. He said, I just had a few beers and I've been sitting here stewing, thinking how I'm going to whoop your ass. So I took the ass whooping.
Would you take it again?
I would take it again in a second. Yes, I would. I'd take it from my wife every time I go on the show with you, right? It's more of a verbal assault.
Yes. Same pain.
Same pain, right? I have my tail between my legs and my butt hurts at the end, but
And then you're thinking about how can I do this again?
it was like it was, and it was general admission. And that was
Yeah.
kind of like the end of the general admission, and we didn't get on the rail, but I just remember that first live chord hitting in the and that feeling, that vibration, that energy. I'm like, it completely hooked me. So, God, this has been so much fun. Any final thoughts on your first show or just concerts in general?
We're gonna have some more episodes where we're gonna talk about how concerts have changed and what's different and what's
Yeah.
the same. But I mean, it doesn't matter who you go see. If it's somebody you love, you're gonna get hooked the same way.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're
and
gonna get hooked.
to me, it's remembering that moment with Josh, not just the show, but it was the
Everything that
stealing
led
of
up
the
to it.
car and everything that led up to it, and having to get the ticket. And I detasseled corn to pay for that ticket. And we'll talk about on our next episode what it was like to get tickets and what you all, if you're probably under the age of 35, what you all didn't have to go through that we
Yeah.
did to get a ticket. So we'll share that on the next episode. But guys, we built this for you. We are just two fans. We're not music snobs. We're not music critics. We want to hear your stories. So please, in the comments, tell us your first concert, your favorite memories, and we're going to choose some of those best ones. And we're going to invite you on as a guest to Tales from the Rail because we want to hear from you. Our stories will run out, but we want the memories to be eternal. We don't want the music to go quiet. We want to keep those memories eternal. We want to hear your favorite stories. So please comment below. Be looking for more episodes from Tale from the Rail. And gosh, just thank you so much for tuning in and watching.
Yeah,
Please share the episode. We'll be on Apple. We'll be on Spotify. So if you could do us one favor, please share this episode to your favorite music fan.
Yep. And we look forward to hearing from you guys and hearing all your stories too. And like he said, we're not music critics. We're not music pros. We're just two fans. I mean, I would love to get paid to go to to concerts, but every concert I've been to, I spent my money to get there. I spent my money on gas. I spent my money on merchandise.
Yep.
So we're just fans that
Well, I think that's what makes
tell
it
our stories and hear other stories, and it's just a lot of fun. This is the fun part. We want to take the camera that's usually pointed at the band and turn that thing around and point it on the fan, and hear about the fan experience and just keep those great memories alive. And because they're what shaped us. They're what shaped me and you for sure.
Mhm.
And I'm sure they shaped everyone out there too. And we'd love to hear those stories.
Yeah, so we wanna hear from you. Share, like, subscribe. We can't wait to hear from you.
And it's not the way you rock, it's the way
Way
that
you
you
roll.
roll.